Hello, horror fan, best friends, and ghoulish knights, and welcome to the 15th episode of Murders with Mertens. I am your host, Joe, and this is a podcast about horror. Vampires, cosmic horror, body horror, the horror adjacent, the supernatural, the psychologically terrifying, scary films in general. Each episode, I sit down with a guest and discuss one of their favorite scary films so we can gush about everything that makes it just so damned cool. Viewers, thank you for the support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you are so inclined. It all helps to get the word out and bring some much needed love to this fledgling podcast. I have a minor goal of reaching 100 subs by the end of the year so that I can get that custom URL on YouTube. So, help! I'm about halfway there. So, slow progress. We're getting there, but help! But forget all of that for the time being. We're not going to waste any time in diving into things and introducing today's guest. I have the honor of welcoming back Mr. Yasman 300. Yas, how's about you, sir?
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
So we have brought you back once again after I've been a bit of a fixture on your show. Probably one of the more prolific guests at this point, wouldn't you have to say? I'm getting there.
Boy. Yeah,
But,
I think it's you and who is it? Kai, I think, are not the challengers.
But for the most part, you keep bringing in movies that I feel like I have to somehow defend, with rare exception. So yeah, I'm glad to have you back on here. Today's topic is it's a humdinger. It's a 1987's The Lost Boys, directed by Joel Schumacher. Yes, I haven't seen this film in forever. So this was a real treat getting to watch this again. It has been so long. It is so much fun. You're the one who chose this, though. It's one of your favorite scary movies. What's your history with the film?
I actually, I saw it, I think, maybe a year or two, because most of my knowledge has been, of course, the shirtless saxophone guy. That's what I mostly know the film about.
Sexy saxophone man, yes.
Yeah. Now it's like, one day I was looking at Tubi. It's like, oh, it's on Tubi. It's like, it's free on Tubi, but plus the ads, I might as well watch it. I actually ended up enjoying it, especially the way the filmmaking. Alex says that people talk crap about Joel Schumacher for his Batman movies. Watch this film; it will make you change your mind about him.
Yeah, he's actually a very competent director, and this movie's got such a great sense of humor. A lot of that's provided by Corey Haim's character Sam, and the Frog Brothers. The other Corey. Corey Feldman, and I can't remember the actor's name who plays the other Frog Brother, but ultimately, it's very self-aware. You would not have Buffy the Vampire Slayer without this movie for sure.
It came out after this film.
This was 87. Buffy the Vampire Slayer was the very early 90s for the film with Christy Swanson. And then of course it wasn't until like 97 or so. Yeah.
That's how I know
Paul Rubens and oh god, you can't forget Rutger Hauer. He's the head vampire.
Oh really?
Yes.
Man, he's great. I mean, wasn't he? Because we saw the vampire that I remember he was also in Salem's Lot, one of the Salem's Lot TV shows, the vampire.
Maybe not in the original miniseries.
Not the second one. It had I think the guy from I forgot his name. He was in Parks and Recreation and Tommy Boy.
Oh, what's his face?
Rob Lowe.
Yes.
Yeah, he was, I think, the lead in the second one.
I've only ever seen the original miniseries. That one slaps. That is so much fun. And there's definitely callbacks to that in this film, for sure. I honestly can't remember when I first saw this movie. I'm sure at some point in the 90s, because I would have been about 8 when this first came out. Because I'm fucking old. But
don't worry, I'm not Andy.
Yeah, that's okay. Not everybody can be.
Yeah.
Or should they be? But ultimately,
don't worry, I'm punching him in my next episode of my podcast.
Oh, good for you. But yeah, I probably saw this in either the late 90s or the early 2000s. So I probably would have been like the perfect, demo for it upon its original release at that point, right? But yeah, it's a fun ride, man. Like I
Yeah.
said, a wonderful sense of humor. It's got some cool little effects. Um,
Mm.
and wow, there is so much as far as inspiration from this film to future films, and
Mm-hmm.
then stuff that this film is clearly parodying as well. Um, so yeah, why don't we kind of dive right in at this point?
Yeah.
We just open up with credits and a title shot and a theme
Yeah.
song and everything, and an establishing shot of the boardwalk at night. And this was filmed in like largely around Santa Monica, right? Like the Santa Monica Pier,
Yeah.
or
They weren't allowed because it was a vampire. They didn't tell them to use the word Santa Monica, so they had to create a new word.
yeah,
That's up
Santa
what I've
Carla,
heard.
which is one of the
Yeah.
worst sounding town names for a vampire movie, but whatever. But yeah, cool establishing shot, and they dive
Mm.
right into it. You got these four punks who are starting trouble on the merry-go-round, and they get kicked out by a security guard. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's I don't know. There's nothing exceedingly special about this or anything, but oh, we get that great little, like almost reminiscent of Suspiria shot of something flying through the air after the security
No.
guard. And ooh, he gets fucked up. So
Yeah.
much so that he rips the car door right off. Um, yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
works. It works. It's fun. Is it a little cheesy by today's standards?
Mm.
Sure,
He's do
but
you this Spielberg did it with Jaws also because he couldn't had the money to show the shark was broken, so he
oh,
used this.
sure. Yeah, and I think
That's what they
they
did
they
with the
use that
POVs.
to their advantage in this film for
Yeah.
sure. You do not see much of the vampires attacking until much later in this story. But
Imagining is way scarier than seeing. That's all I say.
yeah, that's definitely the H.P. Lovecraft method of, oh, nope, it's too terrifying to describe. Nope, can't tell you. Can't tell you. It would drive you mad. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it works for sure. And then we move to daytime, and we get
Yeah.
the family moving to Santa Carla as they fight over the radio station. We're introduced to Judy, Michael, and Sam. Michael being the older son, and Sam the younger, and then of course their dog, which is probably a husky or a Malamute or something like that. You know, basically a sled dog, Nanook. Um, and we get the interesting shots of the city they're moving to and all that, and we cut into a cover of People Are Strange by Echo and the Bunnymen,
Uh-huh.
as we move through a montage of punks and missing children posters.
Uh-huh.
So we're
And
just
Richard Donner, executive producer on the film.
yeah, that's true. He almost directed this, but he got sidetracked with some other projects.
Do you
And
read what he was gonna do with the film, right? Richard
yeah, it was
Donner?
supposed to be more younger kids,
Goony
and
types of movie.
yeah.
Joel Schumacher came and he brought Jeffrey Bob, the guy who wrote Lethal Weapon, I
Mhm.
think 2 and 3 to rewrite the script and to make it the movie that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely punched it up because the Frog Brothers
Yeah.
were supposed to be like Cub Scout kids, just much everybody was supposed to be tons younger, and it was supposed to be much more of a kids movie. Uh Again, kind of coming off of the success of Goonies just a couple of years earlier. So and I get that. That makes sense, but I'm glad that they punched it up and made it more of
Yeah.
a teenage early 20s
Especially
type
also
thing.
at that time, Joel Schumacher wasn't actually a big name at that time. This I think
Y-
is what made him people on the map. Because I was reading
Uh-huh.
about him and he didn't start as a director. I think he was, I think, a costume designer. That's why most of his movies here they're very fashionable.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes total
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Mm.
I gotta say, it's a decent cover of People Are Strange. I mean, they probably
Yeah.
just didn't have the money for the doors, or they thought, hey, let's just use some, you know, current mid to late 80s bands. I guess. I don't know.
And some of them, for what I've read, they don't want to participate in a vampire movie. Just like, hey, we don't want to have our song. So they said they'd up covering it.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah. So we finish our little montage credits section, and the family pulls up to their creepy ass new home. And wow. When one of the kids makes a comment about it looking like something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that totally makes sense, right? But they find
It
Grandpa
was the younger
possibly.
brother, right?
Yeah, I think it was Sam.
He
Um,
references lots of stuff. I was like, okay, how old is he, and how does he know most of old
oh yeah,
stuff?
he makes a flying nun reference in this, the old Sally
And I was like,
Field
what the
thing.
hell is the flying?
Yeah, yeah, Sally Field back in the day, who had a habit with wings that basically allowed her to fly.
Yeah.
Yes, you know you're
And
old
again,
if you
thank God
know the
Angie's
flying
in here.
nun. Yes. But yes, they find their possibly dead grandfather on the front porch. Um, and Sam makes the wonderful comment, if he's dead, can we go back to Phoenix? So you know exactly what this character is going to be throughout the rest of this film, right? But of
Yeah.
course, Grandpa's not dead. He's just weird. And we very quickly learn in this movie that his daughter Judy is indeed a bit weird as well. She's a little hippy dippy. Um, but he welcomes them inside to their new creepy ass home, and it is taxidermy land. If it could be
Oh yeah.
stuffed, it is hanging on the wall somewhere. And he's got a workshop where he does all of his taxidermy as well. It is Creepsville. And we also find out there is no TV. Oh,
Yeah.
that sucks.
How many
Oh,
times does he mention the word TV in this scene? I just,
a lot,
yeah,
because if they
I
have no
stopped
TV,
counting.
they have no MTV. That's his big concern, right, Sam? Uh, yeah, I get it. You just moved to a new place and you gotta live with grandpa and there's no TV.
Yes.
That's gonna suck. I get it. Because this is long before the days of being able to watch anything you want on your cell phone. So
Yes, on
yeah,
iPad. And that's
exactly.
before also laptops. There was no laptops also.
Well, there were, but you're
The
now
giant
you're
ones you have
watching a
to carry.
spreadsheet. You're watching
Yeah.
Excel. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, we learn that mom is recently divorced. She's down on her luck. She's moving back home with dad because that's all she's got. Well, grandpa announces we have rules. And number one being that he has his shelf in the fridge and you do not touch his shelf in the fridge. And we get the call back to him having rules throughout the rest of this movie. He's a fun character.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's definitely a bit quirky, and that's cool. That's cool. This works for this film. Um, so then we kind of immediately cut from here. Nope, no, wait. I'm sorry. I totally missed this part. Um, Sam asks his grandfather, "Is it true that Santa Carla is the murder capital of the world?" And Grandpa just kind of acknowledges this and says that, yeah, there's some bad elements around town. And yeah, yeah, Michael and Sam exchange some glances here, and we cut to the evening then, where everybody's checking out the boardwalk, and yeah, we immediately get sexy saxophone guy Tim Capello.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, like you had mentioned earlier, this guy was one of Tina Turner's
Yeah.
saxophonists. He had, a fairly long career as a musician. And
Uh-huh.
then, was parodied and memed to death. You had the Saturday Night Live thing of the saxophone part from what is it, Careless Whisper, the George Michael song, and then just constant internet memes of this performance here. And this is where
And
Michael
he's
spots.
enjoying it. I think I saw an interview. He talks about it's like, yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, he probably is. Just a little bit more attention of his past glory days, right?
And he looks
Um,
good. I saw a photo of that. He
yeah,
looks good actually.
yeah, I'm sure he's somebody that takes care of himself.
Yeah.
Um, for sure. This is where Michael spots Star, and he is
Yeah.
obviously just enthralled by her, which totally makes sense given what this story is about. And but we'll get there eventually. Um, and I think we cut here to Judy. She's walking the boardwalk. She's kind of looking for work and just checking things out. And she sees a help wanted sign in a store window. And this is where she finds a missing child. She immediately goes into mom mode and she
Yeah.
takes him inside. And we get the punks from earlier walking inside the store. And Kiefer Sutherland um, is with not even saying a word in this scene, only having like one line or two in the very beginning of this movie so
Yeah.
far. He is just absolutely magnetic in this movie.
Uh,
Um, it's there's a reason why people love this film, and he's just got so much damn charisma. It's perfect.
yeah.
So you get the punks kind of picking around the store, and Judy introducing herself to Max, the owner of the store, and they deal with the
Played
missing
by the
kid.
dad from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. That most people will know this guy, Edward Herman from Gilmore Girls. He's the grandfather in that show. Great actor on that show.
Uh-huh.
The dude's got a storied career. Um,
Sadly, he's no longer with us. Passed
yeah,
away.
he died at some point in the past 10 years or so. It's a shame. He was a cool dude. But Max kicks out the punks, and let's see here. And Judy admits that, she's not there looking for videos. She needs a job.
Uh-huh.
And that's basically it with them. And we've got Michael following Star and this little kid who we later named Addie. And Sam decides to split off from him because, well, this is just boring to him. I'm
Yeah.
not going to help you stalk your future ex-girlfriend, dude. But yeah, Sam decides to check out the comic shop, and this is where we meet the Frog brothers, Edgar and Alan, which
That's
is,
supposed to be Edgar Allan Poe, not?
yeah, it's a clear nod to Edgar Allan Poe.
Mm,
And you've got
yeah.
their parents who are clearly stoned out of their mind, ex hippies who are leaned up against the wall.
Are we sure these
We
are not two random strangers just sleeping to say that they're parents?
I have no idea. I just want to assume that these are the parents. Um,
Yeah.
and this is why the kids ultimately run the shop. Um, and the brothers, after introducing themselves, and just, there's this awesome back and forth about comic book knowledge
Yeah.
between them all, mostly on Sam's part. But they give him a vampire comic and tell him this
Yeah.
just may save your life. I also love that Corey Feldman is kind of doing this Rambo impression throughout this entire movie.
I think that's what he told him. Like, act.
Yeah,
Schumacher told him act like a the biggest tough guy in hero, and it's like, oh, I'll act like Stallone because he was like at that time Rambo, and he was the
sure.
action guy. He's like, I'll do Stallone.
That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
total sense. Okay. But yeah, he gives him the comic and he's like, I don't like horror comics. But he's like, take it. Just might save
Mm.
your life. Um, so he does. And then the couple that was harassed by the punks in the very beginning of the film, they make a bit of a commotion and steal some comics and run off. And so the Frog Brothers, suit taking Sam leaves.
Mm.
Um, and then we get Star and Laddie, who make it to the gang of punks before Michael is able to catch up with her. And there are some knowing glances exchanged between everybody, and they ride off into the night. And
Uh,
yeah, I forget who plays
I think
Star. It's
Jamie. I think Jamie something because I know she's actually the mom. The TV show are still standing. I don't know if you noticed.
yeah, and she like owns a football team or something now too.
Really? Because I know
Yeah.
that TV is still standing. It had the guy who played King Robin the first season of Game of Thrones as her husband.
Hmm.
He played like in like two parents who are not good at raising their children, and the children are more mature than them,
Hmm.
including down to the point that the principal's kids are, oh, it's your parents. It's like she do times to look at the children. It's like, thank God you guys are more mature than your parents.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she didn't age a lot, but she looks the same if you compare that and the
Yeah, I've
time she
seen some
played.
more recent photos of her, and yeah,
Yeah,
she's aged very well.
yeah.
But yeah, she's done some cool stuff with her husband, I guess. Like they own a football team. Good for her.
Yeah.
So yes, they ride off into the night, and we cut from there to the comic thieves in some abandoned car somewhere, and they get attacked. The roof of the car gets ripped off, and we get again those shots like we talked about where we don't actually see the killers, but we see the terrified reactions of the victims. And yeah, they're donezo. Um, let's see. And then we go to the next day where Grandpa is showing off his classic car to Sam, and he's just weird about it. He's just an old weird dude. You know, they start up
I
the
like
car.
him.
Yeah, yeah. They start up the car and he's like, "Okay, you ready to go to town?" And he just turns off the car and gets out and he's
Just
like,
that's it.
"Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's as close to town as I want to get." And all right. So Sam decides to fuck off and go back to the comic shop because he's got nothing better to do. And the Frog Brothers, you know, again, are super weird and pushy about the vampire comics. This time they're going to give him their phone number as well, you know, just in case. And, you know, we hope you never need to call us. And he's like, I hope I never need to call you too. It's good. It's again the all the comedic back and forth in this movie really does work quite nicely.
Yeah.
It's fun. Um and I think we just jumped to nighttime again. It's
Yeah.
one thing I definitely noticed while watching this movie is that over and over there's bits of dialogue that make it seem like this is an event that has spread over just weeks and weeks and weeks. Except everything in this movie happens over the course of like 3 or 4 days.
This is what it felt like. It felt like it's happened on like a few days. That's what
Yeah.
I've read. I did not notice it. Like you feel like the dialogue's like it's been for weeks, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, because like comments that you know Judy makes to her kids about I work all day and blah blah blah. You've been at work for a day,
Yeah.
let alone many days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's strange. And part of that might be due to some cut scenes because I know there were some scenes that were cut, like Michael working as a garbage man to save up money to buy a leather jacket instead of him just
All right, you
at this
see him
point in the
later.
film buying this cheap leather jacket on the boardwalk, um, which he
You do
does.
see him, and it seems like, "Do you need a job? Is it only for the legals?" He tells him at the beginning of the
Yeah,
tour.
yeah. There's nothing legal that you can do here. Great. Um, so yeah, Michael does buy this cheap leather jacket on the boardwalk, and then he's seeing somebody getting their
This
ear
how old is he? He's
pierced.
supposed to be in high school,
I
Michael?
think, yeah, he's supposed to be like a junior or senior in high school, something like that.
Something
So
like that.
he's probably like 17, 18, somewhere around
Yeah.
there. But of course, he's probably about 25 or 30-year-old playing, you know, because that's exactly what happened throughout all the 80s and the 90s, right? You had to be
I mean, it's
almost
not as worse
elderly.
as Rob Schneider and Surf Ninja. I think he was
Oh,
playing, I
God.
think, a high school student. I remember, I think he was 30 playing a high school student. I think it's
I mean, it
15-year-old,
sounds
something
about
like
right because that's so common throughout the 80s and the 90s.
because they
They
had,
had
what's his name?
no
Ernie
faith.
Reyes.
Yeah.
And Ernie Reyes Jr. Like he looks kind of, if he's not shirted, he looks like, a teen high school student. But Rob Schneider's like, oh no, that's not.
Oh, God. Yeah. I don't think anybody ever had any faith in child actors being able to portray, you know, smart, intelligent kids. It, I, Either that or people just wanted more established people in the
Unless you're
roles.
Macaulay Culkin, you're okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, Michael is considering getting his ear pierced, and Star shows up out of the woodwork, you know, just like, oh hey, that's a ripoff. I could do it for you. And they start talking as they're walking along, talking about their names and so on, about their hippy dippy parents, all that. And we've got David observing all of this. And Michael offers to take her to get something to eat. And she's like, yeah, that's cool. And she just about hops on his bike when all of a sudden David and the other punks all show up. And he's like, come on, Star, we're getting out of here. And, you know, clearly breaking up the fun. But for whatever reason, he decides that he wants to, you know, fuck with Michael a little bit or you know, just see what he's got. And he tells him, hey, let's go race out to this one bluff. And Michael's like, hey, my bike is shit. I'm never going to be able to keep up with yours. And he's like, nah, you just got to try to keep up and follow me, dude. I want you to come with me. And they do. They all peel off there, and Michael nearly eats shit driving down these stairs. He nearly wipes out there by this bonfire. but he keeps up with them, and they race along the beach, and there's the music playing and all that shit.
Yeah.
And they start kind of playing chicken as they drive through the darkness and the mist.
Yeah.
And Michael nearly rides off of this cliff with a lighthouse below, and he gets pissed and slugs David, um, and clearly wants to fight him, but David's like, nah, dude, this is all part of the fun. This is what we're here to do. Come on. And he just keeps playing an absolute dick, but also wanting to show him a good time. It's, we learn later that things were not supposed to play out this way. Something else was supposed to happen, but he's clearly trying to initiate him into things at this point.
Yeah.
He just saw something in him that he thought, okay, great, he could be one of us, I guess. And so, yeah, it takes him down to this sunken hotel that was lost in the great big earthquake in the early 1906 that wiped out so much of San Francisco. Basically, this hotel was just swallowed up by the earth, and these punks have repurposed it as their hangout.
Reminds me of the Goonies, actually, a little bit.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. Absolutely. They got their Jim Morrison poster in the background, and it's clearly all of their inspiration is right there. And I think from here we cut back to Sam reading his vampire comic, and his mom and his grandpa are extra weird. Grandpa gives him a stuffed gopher or something.
Yes, I was gonna say the beaver, was it? Then he should stuff it in.
I think it's a gopher.
The closet.
Yeah. He's like, not today, motherfucker. And he picks it up and he puts it in the closet because he does not want this thing staring at him while he sleeps. And I think that's wise. We get more of this kind of stuff later, but we'll get to that all in good time. Yeah. Mom's going out to do whatever. I don't think she's going on
work.
Yeah, I think just work.
Still haven't did it.
And we cut back to the hotel, and Marco, Alex Winter's character, comes back with a big bunch of Chinese food. And I kind of figured that he just killed a delivery person and swiped the food.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's kind of what happened. It's whatever delivery person he could find and kill who was hauling food. That's my theory right there. And we get one of the most iconic scenes of the film, where
one that what we do in the Shadow Reptile.
Exactly. And to more comedic effect because they don't do a good job of it. But yeah, exactly. This has been probably ripped off in other ways as well. But yeah, we get David using his vampire powers to make Michael think that he is eating maggots instead of rice. And then he offers him some of his noodles, which are worms. And honestly, Michael seems a lot more grossed out than he probably should be. But I don't know. Maybe those vampire powers just work really well. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, we know why later, he does this to him. Is when he hands him the blood, because you think, oh, I'm not drinking blood. Maybe that's why he's doing this to him, to trick him.
And yes, we move right into this initiation where they bring out this bottle of wine that, somebody took their bedazzler to and, dressed up. And, Star warns him, don't drink it. You don't have to do this. Don't do it. And she's like, it's blood. And he's like, yeah, right. And yeah, he takes his big swig and they all watch as they all chant, Michael, Michael, Michael. And they're all like, okay, you're one of us now. And yeah, he kind of is. Because they go and they party for a little bit as the theme song plays, and then they race off on their bikes to this train bridge.
Yeah.
And they all start hanging off the underside, and Michael joins them. And this is when the train comes along, rattling the bridge so hard that they all start falling off one by one into the mist below. And Michael finally loses his grip, and we get this way overdone falling scene that
That was the
takes
only negative
forever.
thing I have for the film because the way they shot it's gonna be someone is standing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And I get where they're going with this, and you hear all the other kids laughing. The theme song kicks in again, and then basically we have Michael kind of waking up in bed, and it's 2 o'clock the next day, and mom's calling like, "Hey, did you just get in? What's going on? And can you watch Sam tonight? Because I'm going out on a date with Max." And again, feels like this should have been weeks later or something. But
Yeah,
yeah,
the movie
no,
is very fast paced. That's what I'll
it
say.
is. It just kind of cooks right along, doesn't it? Um, so yeah, Michael is not feeling well.
Yes.
Light is not great for him. He asks for sunglasses. Sam is just giving him some shit as well. But yes, Judy convinces him to stay home with Sam so that she can go out on this date. And Grandpa gets ready for a date of his own. He's
Yeah.
going to go visit the widow Johnson, slaps on some Windex for some aftershave because he can't find any. Um,
I did not
is
notice that scene. The
I
Windex.
love how they even call it by name. Some wonderful product placement there. Um, but yeah, he drives off, and this is where we get David's gang kind of creating a ruckus outside with their bikes, but we never see
Yeah.
them.
Hmm.
And you've got all the wind blowing at the shades and the blinds and all
Yeah.
that, and all the lights from the bikes and everything.
Mm.
And they finally open up the door, and there's nothing outside.
Uh-huh.
Um, and Sam's like, "I'm gonna go take a bath."
Yeah.
Sure. And Michael goes to grab this thing of milk out of the fridge, and you can see on the carton immediately Laddie, the young
Yes.
kid from the gang. His picture is on the carton. Um,
Did you still
even
do it in
before
the US
they
with
do zoom
the same?
into it later on
Uh,
when it's on the counter after the mom picks it up. But yeah, you can clearly see right away he's on there, and he's racked by this horrible pain in his gut. And he drops the milk, and he realizes that hunger pain. And well, crap, he starts stalking his little brother at this point.
uh,
And nearly gets to him, but
but thank
uh,
God for Nano.
yeah, Nanook saves the day, and he attacks Michael. Um, and yeah, Sam, right at the moment all this happens is when he ducks his head under the water in the bathtub to rinse his hair. And
Uh,
so he misses out on everything that happens here, but finally gets out of the tub because he did hear a little something, comes downstairs to find Michael wounded,
yeah.
and he realizes what's happening. Oh my God. Uh, you wait till mom finds out.
Yeah, because he knows the reflection is getting disappearing a
Yup.
little bit.
Yep, that's great, which is something else that they kind of make fun of a little bit in What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
Woo, Ghost Cup. Um, yes.
Yeah. My favorite moment in
But
What We Do in the Shadows, the scene where he tells them, "Hey, I can find you virgin online." And then they're looking. The vampire's like, "I don't think she's a virgin if she's doing this."
yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh God, yeah. I love Sam's dialogue through basically this whole film because the whole thing about you're a goddamn blood sucking shit eating vampire or whatever he says, and you wait till mom finds out. I love that the little brotherly back and forth though. There, so Sam locks himself in his room and he's got Michael pounding on the door to talk to him. And he's like, "Well, I guess I got to call the Frog Brothers," and he doesn't exactly like the help that he gets out of them because they basically just want to show up and kill his brother for him.
Yeah.
Um, but this is where Michael decides to just flop down on his bed because he doesn't know what to do, and then he has an out of control flying experience where he is
Mm.
on the ceiling and halfway out the window, and
Yes.
well, yeah, this is where Judy does that thing that moms do on TV shows and movies where she gets to the restaurant and she calls home to check in to just
Mm.
make sure that everything's okay. I have never
Mm.
had my mother do this, or have met anybody who's ever experienced something like this, but you always see it in movies and stuff. I don't know. It's weird, but this is where Sam is freaking out because he thinks Michael's trying to kill him. Michael's on the other line. No,
Yeah.
no, everything's fine. We're all
Flying
good.
outside
As
holding
he's
the
halfway
phone.
outside the window with the phone. Yeah. And here's where we get that fun little Salem's Lot
Flying.
reference of the brother floating
All right.
outside, wanting to be let in.
Yeah.
And Sam does let him in, and they make up, and
The
talk about
mom
how
leaves the date, leaving
yeah, she
Michael.
takes off in a big hurry because she thinks that her son's being axe murdered. And she gets home and she's like, "No," or Sam's like, "I don't know. I was reading a horror comic and I guess I got a little freaked out."
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a super lame excuse. She does not buy it. She is pissed that she missed out on her date.
And the milk's
Um,
on the ground later.
yeah, exactly. And that's where we get again the shot of Laddie's picture and Grandpa. He's coming home here from his date with the widow Johnson. Pretty short date there, Grandpa. But Michael sneaks off then to go basically seek out Star.
Yeah.
Oh, also
Max comes
Max.
visit him.
Yes, Max goes home. To his own house there after his blown date with Judy, and we get this fun little fake out like he's being attacked or something. And again,
You drop
excellent
him a
use
kite,
of
right?
the yeah, they threw this vampire kite on his lawn. They're just, they're fucking with him.
Yeah.
But again, the excellent use of not showing us the killers as a way of faking us out with this too.
Yeah.
Because well, we'll get to it in a minute here. But yeah, Michael sneaks off to go see Star. She doesn't give him any answers. She either can't or doesn't want to. And then they have sex, and let's see.
He comes back home. His mom said, "I want to talk
Well,
to you,"
not
right?
quite yet because
He
he
goes, the
wakes
frog
up
brother.
first in the morning and discovers the wound on his hand from Nanook has
All
been
right, right.
healed. So he realizes that he is, developing into something else, but he's not quite there yet. So yes, I think he does head home here at this point, and that's where he finds his mom waiting on the front porch, and that's never good, right? Um, but they have a little talk, and he doesn't want to talk. She just wants to be able to have a conversation with him, but he blows her off. Um, let's see here. Judy takes Sam with her to go give Max an apology gift for
Uh,
blowing him off on the date. She's going to drop off a bottle of wine. She doesn't
Also,
want to
before
leave it
that,
at the
the
front.
grandpa, he says the lines like, "Looks like I'm not the one who was
Oh yeah,
lucky."
yeah,
That
yeah.
right now to me.
Yep, yeah. Grandpa is very horny.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, Judy and Sam go to deliver this bottle of wine. She's like, you're the one who should be apologizing, honestly. And she goes to take it all the way up to his front door because she just doesn't want to leave it at the gate. Somebody's going to take it, she thinks. Well, this is where um, Sam is reading another vampire comic and he starts reading about the hounds of hell, these
Mm.
devil dogs in the employ of vampires. And it's at this moment that Max's dog, Thorn, decides that it's going to attack Judy. And we get this kind of Cujo esque moment here of the
Yeah.
dog like trying to burst through the fence. Um, yeah, they managed to get away though. Let's see. And yeah, this is where Sam he's starting to think, okay, well, maybe Max is one of the vampires. So he's going to go to the Frog Brothers for help. And then we get Max coming over for dinner. Michael's
Yeah.
trying to take off at this point, and we get this very, very obvious, well, you're the man of the house. Aren't you going to invite me in?
Yeah.
And Michael does. You're invited.
And
He
I
comes
like that
on in.
grandpa's looking at him. He's like,
Right, right. Yeah. Now, Grandpa was looking forward to dinner, and then he found out the company was coming, and
It's like, yeah.
yeah, he's
Seems
like,
like he
"Fuck
hated
this."
him from day one.
Yep, yep. So Grandpa is not part of this, but we find out that Sam brought the Frog Brothers to dinner as his guest because they're gonna test out good old Max here to see if he's the big bad vampire. And yeah, first they test his breath. Nope. Turns out that's just Nanook basically on the table breathing in Judy's face. So yep, nope, doesn't have bad breath. They test garlic by hiding it in the Parmesan cheese that he puts on his spaghetti. And he nearly chokes to death because of how much he puts on his pasta.
Yeah.
But no, garlic doesn't do
He
anything.
sure loves his cheese.
Hmm. They splash holy water on him, but nothing happens there. And they try to test his reflection, but nothing.
Yeah.
Dinner is essentially ruined.
Yeah.
And oh, well, it's
He's
clear to
very calm.
Max. Oh, yeah, it's very clear. It's just, your son perceives me as somebody trying to, replace his father. It's not what I'm trying to do here. We could try this again another time. Um, what's your thinking on the holy water and the reflection thing? Is it just because he's the master vampire and he's that strong that ultimately, I mean, future spoilers here, but is it because of this that it has no effect on him? Or what do you think?
It's actually they're trying to bait and switch, that's all I'll say.
Well,
They're trying to
clearly
trick
they
you.
are, yes, but I'm just curious why these things aren't affecting him in any way. Um, yeah, well, I guess
Yeah, maybe it's
the
because they wanted something funny for these scenes, like a laugh, because they
yeah,
you know
I just
they
mean
want to
in the
make some.
logic of the movie
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
Is it just that he's such a powerful vampire that they have no effect on him? I
Or maybe
suppose.
he is a vampire, but all the stuff you hear legend about them are fakes. Maybe that's another
Right,
reason.
because the garlic clearly is in this film, but
Yes,
the
I
other
got it.
things work. Yeah. So I don't know, but regardless, the date is ruined.
Yeah,
Um
but he's okay
Max,
with it.
yeah, he invites Judy over for the following night to
And
have dinner
Grandpa's
at
still
his
looking at.
place.
I wonder if Grandpa was laughing, seeing how bad the date was.
It could be. That could be. So while all this has been happening, Michael has gone in search of Star, but he runs into David instead, who takes him off on another little initiation thing. They're gonna go kill some punks on the beach.
Do
So
you
the
know what they're
gang's
called, those punks? Do you know what they're called?
no.
So yesterday I was watching the movie. I had the subtitles on. The subtitle lists these punks as surf Nazis.
You know what? I did read something about how there was supposed to be like a rival gang in the movie, and that was cut
Maybe
as
that's
well.
actually
And they were
them. That's my
supposed to
message.
be, yes, the surf Nazis or something like that.
Maybe
So
like we see like in the bikers. Maybe that was them. Maybe they're harassing Michael because they think he's part of the boys, and maybe that's why they were harassing Max. We will talk about it later. That's my
yeah,
theory. This must be
that could be.
them.
That could be. But of course, David's gang, their true nature is revealed, and we get them
Yeah.
all vamped out with their fangs and all the makeup and the contact lenses for their eyes and all that shit. And yeah, they go and they tear apart this gang of gutter punks out here on the
And apparently,
beach.
the original scene for this one was very gory because I saw an interview with Kiefer Sean was talking about this. And, oh yes, like he said that there's a scene where he ripped a guy's head. It was very gory. They had to remove it from
Hmm,
the film to secure an R rating, I think.
really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, it's again a lot more of hint at but don't show
yeah.
in how they do all this. And yeah, they tear apart these punks, but Michael refuses to take part, and they warn him, "You gotta feed." But yeah, he does
Yeah.
not. And we cut like immediately from this to Corey Haim, Sam, back in his bedroom, and he's got another gift from Grandpa. This time, like a big owl or something.
Yes.
And he picks it up and he goes to take it to the closet. And again, something that makes me think that this was all supposed to take place over weeks, but they shortened
Yeah.
everything up in the edit because he opens up the closet and it is filled with
Oh,
taxidermied
I did
animals.
not
That
notice
is,
the closet film, but I thought that would be fine if this happened. I did not
oh
notice
yeah,
it.
There were
I have to go back and
tons
rewatch
of
that
them.
scene.
Yes. And as he closes the closet door, there's Michael on the other side. And yeah, Sam fills him in on his plan, how they need to take out the head vampire. We got to figure out
Yeah.
who it is. And this is where Star shows up
Yeah.
outside and she floats up to the window. And we get lots of exposition now
Yeah.
about how, she was supposed to
And
kill
Sam like
Michael.
hides
And
in the bed, but just covering himself with a pillow. That
right,
was
right.
it.
Yes, this is going
The
to
sheet.
save you from the horrible half vampires. But yeah, they basically enlist the Frog Brothers and they steal Grandpa's car and they head off to the hotel. At first, the Frog Brothers, when they show up at the house, they want to know where Michael is because they think they're there to kill him. But no, they're going to join forces here. So they drive off to the hotel and we get this awesome, even though you're a vampire, you're still my brother moment. Again, the little comedic beats between Sam and Michael are fucking funny.
Yeah.
And they're played off as wholesome, but they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Um,
And also, I like the fact that they stole Grandpa's car. It's like, what if we could bring it back?
yeah. Oh, and also we get this thing that will be a callback later of Grandpa. He's working on repairing a fence.
Yeah.
And he's got his post hole digger and everything, and he's got great big fence stakes that he's working with, and yeah, that will come back. But yes, they make it to the hotel. They go down inside, and Michael finds Star and Laddie, and he works on carrying them back out to the car. Yeah. Meanwhile, the three boys they find a tunnel. And they figure that the vampire's nest is somewhere through there, so they work their way along. And they expect coffins, but no, they just find the vampires hanging upside down.
Well, Corey Feldman,
And
what's his character's name? Was it Alan or Edgar? And one of
Edgar,
them says like he's like the whole cave is a coffin. He tells him
yeah,
that was like
yeah, basically somewhere deep enough that it'll never be penetrated by direct sunlight, right?
yeah.
But yeah, they figure, okay, we're just gonna have to kill them all. It's just what we're gonna have to do. There's no way to tell who the head vampire is. And Feldman decides he's gonna stake Marco, Alex Winter's character.
Yeah.
And they stake him. He screams. He explodes in a bunch of goop, and all the other
Glittery
vampires
goop.
start screaming. Yes, it's something that Twilight will rip off years later with glittery vampires. But they crawl out of that tunnel for their lives, and David grabs one of their legs, and they manage to get away by dragging his hand into the sunlight.
Yeah.
And uh, it bursts
He
into
cried, actually.
flames. Yep. And
I
David
actually read
yells
the
at
story
him,
about.
"You're dead meat." And
I actually read about what happened to his tears. I don't know if you read about it. That was not scripted. That was, you see, what happened was that the makeup they were putting on them it was very tight on their face that they had a hard time breathing, and that's why
yeah,
you see there wasn't a lot of makeup scene on them. So they had to film it very quickly. So when they
yeah,
were filming this scene, the makeup, I think the eye contact was very close to Kiefer
yeah. A
Sutherland's
lot
eye
of the
that it
contact
hurted him.
lenses in the '80s were awful for that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
They had a lot of problems in the first couple of Evil Dead movies with that.
yeah,
Because they
and
had like almost all white contacts in those films,
yeah,
and you basically couldn't see what you were doing, and they
yeah.
were just horrible for your eyes. Um,
Yes,
so
because what happened was it was very close to that. He starts tearing. You see him crying, and then
mhm.
Joel Schumacher was filming it, and he's like, "You know what? This scene looks good. We'll make it look like his hand got burned.
Yeah,
He's crying because it hurt him. We keep it in the film."
yeah, and then David vows that he's gonna get them
Yeah,
tonight. And yeah, Grandpa totally shrugs off Michael bringing a girl and a small child into their home. Um,
and he tells us like,
say,
"Make sure you refill the gas next time."
yeah, basically, do you know the rule about when you steal my car without asking, bringing it home with a full tank of gas? And he's like, no. Well, now you do. It's
It's funny
Grandpa's
because the
awesome.
beginning of the film, he was like, that's I know to drive my car." He's very protective of it.
Right, right. Yeah. And then basically just allows them to get away. Well, I don't know what he would have done. Chase after them with this broke ass Jeep, maybe, but
Maybe he saw like the girl that brought in. He was like, "Man, you know what? She's hot. You can have her."
yeah.
Because
Um,
he was like, He makes the joke like I'm not the only one who's lucky today.
Right. So Sam goes and embarrasses the hell out of his mom at work,
Yeah.
basically screaming about the vampires and how she's got to do something. She's like, just, I'm going to deal with you later. I can't handle this shit. I'm trying to live my life and you're being horrible. Which I get because he kind of is.
Yeah.
And, she's got to be mom. And you can't always be your kid's very best friend. Um, Unfortunately, this is a moment where she really should have been. And then we have the Untrio gathering their supplies. They bust open the door of a church in the middle of the
Yeah.
baptism and fill their
And they say
canteens with holy
nothing.
water while everybody's just staring at them. And you kind of almost think that they're used to this
It's
with
like
these kids getting their holy water for their vampire hunting. But
maybe
yeah,
it's because of the reputation it has, the city being like filled with vampires. Just like
maybe.
maybe this another what's it, a Sunday for us.
Yeah. And then we get Sam making an excuse that, oh, Grandpa, don't you have that hot date with the widow Johnson?
You
He's
do?
like, I do? Well, okay, then I guess I better get ready.
Bring back
Just
the
to get
windows.
him out of the house. And in the meantime, they fortify the house by locking all the windows and, throwing
The
tables against the
bathtub
doors
with
and the windows. And yeah, they get the bathtub filled with holy water and garlic. Oh, that's a wonderful combination right there. And we get David and the two remaining lackeys waking up after sunset, and they fly off in search of their prey. And Judy and Max finally have their date, and um, you can tell that she's about to tell him about what's been going on,
yeah.
and they just cut away from that conversation
Yeah.
immediately. And poor Nanook gets left outside, and they realize this at the last minute, and they run out to go and save him. But this is when the vampires attack,
Yeah.
and this is somehow how they get into the house, I guess. But yeah, we get the dark-haired vampire attacking Sam and Michael in the
Yeah.
living room, and
The
when the
blood one
Frog
goes after
Brothers,
the brother.
yeah, the Frog Brothers run upstairs with Star and Laddie, and the Frog Brothers decide, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just, we're going to
Kill
execute
everyone.
these people. Yeah, kill all the vampires. So Star and Laddie run away, and when they close the door of their hiding place, we find the blonde vampire hiding behind that one. We get the Frog Brothers fighting with them, and they think that the garlic is going to do something. He's like, garlic don't work, and
Or
they
holy water can.
splash the holy water at him, and it burns his face. And they're just like on the ground cowering. And if it's not for Nanook, they would have been fucked, because Nanook knocks the bloodsucker into the tub, and he starts melting like crazy. He dies, but then fucks up the plumbing for the entire house. It's bursting out of every faucet and every drain. The kitchen's a nightmare at this point.
Was this in the original It book? Because I remember watching the remake. It had that scene when I think Beverly, she gets tricked by.
Yeah, there's a scene in the book where there's a little voice coming out of the drain as Beverly is in the bathroom, and then it turns into Pennywise, and then just blood bursting out
Yeah.
of the drain in the sink. That was definitely in the Tim Curry miniseries. I can't remember if it was in the Andy Muschietti.
I think they was because
remake.
remember here she grabs the Beverly in one scene. Remember? Then his blood comes in, and then her dad comes in. Who's like he doesn't see the
Yeah, the
blood.
dad can't see it. Yeah, I remember it. In it, that was like one of the big deals, that none of the adults could see what was going on.
Yeah.
Only the kids. But that is a different story. Again,
Yeah.
the kitchen is fucked.
Everything blood and war.
Oh yeah, it's just gore and glitter everywhere. So
And I also
Sam,
love that the frog mother, they're scared. They're not like the brave warriors how to fight
right,
vampires.
and Sam is downstairs facing off against the dark-haired one, and he like picks him up and flies into the air, but Sam's got a squirt gun filled with holy water, and he blasts him in the face a couple of times. And when they hit the ground, he grabs his bow and arrow and he shoots him. But the vampire gets up and he's like, "You missed, sucker!" And he's like, "Not the second time." Bam! Right into the stereo, and he
He blows
basically
up.
gets electrocuted. And Sam's
Death
got
by
his little
radio. Was that
death
the
by
line?
stereo line, yeah. And yes, now we only have David left, who surprises them as they head upstairs by just appearing out of the shadows. And Michael gets knocked down the stairs. Sam managed to make his way up, and he's reunited with the Frog Brothers, and they're all happy about what they've managed to get done. And then Laddie hears what's going on, and he vamps out and basically tears the bed to pieces. And let's see.
Thought she stops him from killing Lady. I think that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
word.
because basically he's
Because-
a little kid and she's got to protect him. And
Yeah.
yeah, you get David and Michael just fighting with each other and basically forcing Michael to vamp out himself. Otherwise, he'll never be able to fight him. And it's partially David, tricking him into doing that because, he wants him still to be one of them. He wants them to be his brother. And they fight, and there's back and forth with all these antlers that are everywhere in the place. And Michael finally turns the tables on him and manages to impale him in his grandfather's taxidermy room on some antlers. And we get this.
It's actually a story about his death. Davis, did you read that?
Okay.
So if you notice that David does not blow up like the rest of the
Right.
vampires.
Exactly. He turns
the
human again, and there's this heavenly light and music and all this shit going on.
So for what I've read, I think George Schumacher was planning to do a sequel. He was gonna have David come back as the villain, and I think he's gonna be like the hit vampire for the
Yeah,
sequel.
it was going to be like
Unfortunately-
the Lost Girls or something.
yeah, something like
that.
this. I think he was gonna have mix of boys and girls. But what happened is that Schumacher didn't come with the script. It's like, nah, we're just gonna abandon it, and then we end up getting the directed video sequels.
Right. I've not seen any of that stuff, but it might be fun to watch sometime. I don't know. I watch plenty of
What's his name?
questionable.
Corey Feldman is the only one that appears in all the sequels.
Right. Because the second one they don't have the other Frog brother, but he comes
He
back.
appears
for
in the third one.
Yeah.
The second one has, I think, a cameo by Corey Haim. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
He had cameos in the second one.
I know he had a lot of substance abuse issues over the years, and then he died. God, when was it? About 2010, something like that.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's fortunate.
But yeah, he had a lot of just like a lot of people, issues with transitioning away from being a child star. It's awful.
Yeah.
But yes, we're not done yet. David is dead, but Michael and Laddie and Star,
Laddie are still,
they still have vampires. What the hell's going on? Well, this had to have happened because they killed the head vampire, right? Wrong. This is where Max and Judy make their way home. We also get Michael's "Don't let them see me like this" line. But yes, they come home, and it turns out that Max was the head vampire all along, and his master plan was to make Judy into the mother that his boy.
Basically, they're Wendy. It's like how he's Peter Pan, and the boy and this crew are the Lost Boys.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what they wanted to make. That's explained the title, The Lost Boys.
Yeah, all the Peter Pan allusions throughout the entire film of
the flying. I mean, that's what.
And yep, exactly.
And also, they handled it very well because when he asked him to invite him, because we find out that the reason he was powerless in the dead house is because he got invited by the brother Michael, and they did it very well because you were not suspicious. It's like, oh yeah, it felt very natural. Like they didn't make it very suspicious.
And because, everything makes sense at this point, so of course. But they decide, okay, well, they got to fight him, but he's just too powerful. He's wrecking shop with these people. Star tries to fight him, smacks her down. Michael gets thrown up into the balcony. And this is where we hear the horn from Grandpa's Jeep. Yep, and he crashes through the wall of the house, and Michael pushes Max right into the path of a flying fence stake. which impales him,
and blows
and
up.
the deed is done. Yes, they
Yeah.
turn back and everyone is saved. And Grandpa gets out of his Jeep, walks over to the kitchen, gets a drink out of the fridge, and they're like, "You okay?" And he's like, "One thing about living in Santa Clara or Carla, I never could stomach all the damn vampires." And we cut to credits. That's
Is he a
it.
vampire slayer, the grandpa? Or he
I
was
don't think he is, but I think he's much
he
more
knew about the
aware about,
vampire.
yes. Yeah, I think there are plenty of people that had a decent idea of what was happening in this town.
And
But
also, I like the core film was like, how much should we charge them?
yes, yes, after their house is totally destroyed, how much do you think we should charge these people? Yes. But yeah,
I
man,
think
that's
because
the
that's
Lost
why because
Boys.
seeing this part, and like I said, rewatching the movie, it's like, oh, different meanings. Like when you said like when Michael invites Max in, you see like the grandpa's looking at him suspiciously. But I feel like
Yeah,
he knew. I think he was a vampire maybe at that moment.
very well could be.
Yeah.
Very well could be. We get that
And also
echo in. Oh,
the
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nazis, I think vampire was that the serf Nazis. I think that
Hmm.
was them that went to Max's house. They threw him. I think that what looks like a bat. Maybe I think they knew that he was a vampire.
It could be.
Yeah.
Could be. We get that cover of People Are Strange again.
Yeah.
And credits. That's Lost Boys, man.
Yeah.
It's a short film. It just moves along super
Yeah.
quick, does everything it needs to do, and gets out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a shit ton of fun.
Yeah.
It's
It's a fun film.
it's got its creeps. It's so damn funny. I don't know if it was originally marketed as a comedy. I should look up trailers for this just to see how it plays. If they're like
I think
leaning
it
more into
played
the
it.
horror and
I think more of
teenage
a horror
shit.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
something like this.
but it's a fucking funny movie too.
Yeah.
It really is. Um, yeah, man.
It reminded me of Fright Night, the original one. I know
Yeah,
I've seen the remake because it has some element of it.
I've seen the remake. It's not as bad as people make it out to
No, I
be,
mean, I
but
feel like it's because the remake, because at that time people there's the stigma that remakes are bad. We used to
mhm.
see, I think, bad remakes coming out at that time. Was it the Platinum Doom remix of Texas Chainsaw Friday the 13th, and what was it? Nightmare on Elm Street. And you also got the Rob Zombie Halloween films. They were coming out. They were
Yeah, I mean,
bad.
there's plenty that are not good. Let's be
Yeah.
fair, but I'm mostly team remake. I don't mind. I will
I mean,
definitely
the
give
thing
them a
is a remake.
try. I will definitely give a remake a try. What I don't like is when, okay, case in point, Train to Busan.
Yeah.
Awesome Korean zombie movie, right? And I feel like, it's barely been out there and it's like, well, we got to do an American remake, right? Because we got to cash in when it feels like a clear cash in of a foreign property. Then I feel like really suspect about a remake. But who knows? It could be good. I don't know. I mean,
They
look at The
got what's
Ring.
his name?
Look at The Ring. The
Yeah,
Ring
the
is a
original one.
fucking amazing remake of a Japanese horror movie. It's you cannot go wrong with that movie. It is so much fun and so well shot. Freaking gorgeous. But yeah, that doesn't happen every day. So yeah, hopefully that one, I forget what it's called. Is it like Train to New York or something like that?
Last stopped, I think something like this.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully it's not a steaming pile of shit.
Yeah.
But we'll find
And
out,
since we're
won't we?
talking about remakes, did you saw the Lost Boys news?
Yeah, I forget who it was who was going to be in it.
Jonathan is and Whittle. He's the guy who did the end of the fucking world, and I'm not okay with this. He's directing the film. He's also doing the Power Rangers movie for Netflix. He's
Hmm.
directing the film, and they got the guy who's apparently writing the Static Shock film to write the script of the film. And I'm looking at what the cast member. They got Noah Jupe. He's the kid from The
Oh,
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place.
And
Yeah.
yes, and Jaden Martell from the It film.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Bill in It. And he was also in Knives Out as Michael Shannon's son.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're I think the leads. I don't know if they're gonna be the brothers or going to gonna be Michael or David.
Hmm.
Yeah, because there
But
was also
again,
an attempt to
be
make a
willing to
TV
give it a
show for
try.
CW. They were basically gonna make the Fox sister instead of the brothers.
Hmm.
I mean, we're gonna wait and see how this one's gonna work, because I have to also see how is the Power Rangers movies gonna. Because I have a feel really this must be gonna be one of those. Oh, it's gonna be an '80s like nostalgia trip. That's what it's gonna be like.
Yeah. Maybe if you did it as a period piece and set it in the late 80s still, that could be interesting. I don't think that every remake needs to be set in modern times necessarily.
I mean, the Christie
Um,
is, I think, is a period piece. The remake that what's his name, Brian Fuller's making.
hmm.
Yeah, he said it's
um,
gonna be a period piece.
you could even, take something like that and do it in the 90s just for a different flavor, you know? I could
Yeah.
definitely see something like that. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Yes, you have any final thoughts, any final comments about the Lost World? Lost Boys, rather. That's a totally different type of horror movie right there. Woof. That's a
Yeah.
bad movie.
I mean, it ain't as bad as Jurassic World Dominion or Fallen Kingdom.
I'd still rather watch for sure Fallen Kingdom over the Lost World. I actually
Even
think
Dominion?
Fallen Kingdom's not that bad. Dominion, oh, that's pretty rough, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But
That's a
yeah,
discussion for another day.
yeah,
I
exactly.
saw.
But
So
yeah,
what we
final
talk.
thoughts about the Lost
Oh, yeah,
Boys.
fine. Oh, yeah, so this is, I think, for me, is the George Schumacher best film. I mean, I still haven't watched all of his resume. I mean, out of his like filmography, but I mean, most of it, of course, I know his Batman and Robin. So that's the topic for another day. I mean, if you guys want to hear to our discussion, I did an episode of it with where 30 minutes of the podcast, just the beginning. Me and Andy and the guys talk about bat nipples. That's it. That's the beginning.
I mean, like you do.
And so,
You have
okay.
to. When you talk about a Joel Schumacher Batman film, you have to talk about the bat nipples. It's,
Yeah.
you know what? If you've made it this far into this lovely podcast about the Lost Boys, in the comments below, just say something about bat nipples.
I'm pretty
You
sure
know,
Andy right now has just typed something he posted.
yes, he has. He has. And I am currently liking it. Okay, there we
Yeah.
go.
I
But
will see
yeah,
if it's like I liked it also if I see the comment. Yeah, so what was oh, yes, The Lost Boys. This is actually for me is his best film, because and also I like the fact that he thought outside the book, like we mentioned, the POV shots, like they knew exactly how to spend their mind. That's what I like about it's like when you have limited budget, you go out creative, you think outside of the box. It's like, okay, how can I do this without them? Spielberg did it with Jaws, and you see this
yep.
Schumacher was like, okay, well, how can I use it? He made sure at least that they spent that the third eye, because that's what I liked about it. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll save the best for last, and that's what he did. That's why I
Yeah. What's
appreciate
the
George Schumacher
saying?
what he did.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
And that
Which I think a lot of
absolutely,
filmmakers should look at this, because sometimes you
yeah.
watch the movies like the third act is like the doesn't work. I think you should look
And,
at this. Make sure
yeah.
to how you spend it.
A lot of horror films fall apart in the third act.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. They really do. It's hard to bring some of these stories home. And
Yeah.
this one does an absolutely fine job of it. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. I feel like it's a great time capsule of the late 80s as well.
Yeah.
But there's
You do
so
see a lot
much
of
about
shirtless
this that
greasy
feels
saxophone
like
players a lot.
yeah, absolutely. Where else are you gonna find a sexy ass saxophone player? Yeah, that you can just
I mean, we
meme
do
to
see
death.
some sexy and as shirtless, greased up men in Batman and Robin, but no saxophone playing. Isn't the
Yeah,
same when
yeah.
Poison Ivy she's about to come in, and
Hmm.
they had of course shirtless Jackson and oiled men grabbing her.
Well,
Like in every
yes,
Schumacher film, you have to keep it.
you brought up your podcast revenge or I was about to say revenge of redemption of the
That's the
rotten.
sequel. That's the
That's
sequel.
the sequel series,
Yeah.
yes. But yeah, redemption of the rotten. Yeah, where can people find that? Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. So for those who don't know, I'll explain what the Dish of the Rotten is. It's actually a podcast I created. My main reason is mostly to roast Greg Miller's bad movie taste and to torture and the rest of you guys. And basically, we look at movies that have been polarized or been badly received, and we look to see, okay, did this movie receive the reception that they've got? I mean, I'm right now planning like next year's episodes. I already have some. I mean, I'm really excited because I have League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the Avengers on the list for next year, because they're celebrating their anniversaries next year. I think 20 years for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Celebrating maybe a stretch. I'm just saying. But
I mean, that's one way. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Kai said he wants to be part of that podcast episode. Yeah,
All
and
right.
and
Yeah,
of
I
course,
don't mind League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but the Avengers was one of the few movies that I almost walked out of, but instead heckled most of the way through.
but how
Just
could you not keep your face there when you see with Sean Connery dressed up in a bear costume?
yeah, of two Sean Connery films that you've mentioned, there's only one that I would want to talk about, and that's
Okay,
probably
you know
League
what?
of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, because I
but
have some made some lists that falls, and I will have you guys can find it actually. Uh, yes, 300 Pro on Twitter and Instagram for my podcast information, and basically it's just you can search the podcast everywhere in every platform, the iTunes, Spotify, and you can find on YouTube for video. Basically, it's available on most platforms because I use Anchor to spread it. So just make sure when you if you do like my podcast, you like it and describe it, and you leave a good comment because I want to spread it up, and also do the same thing for Joe's podcast also.
yeah, that's part of the fun, man.
Yeah.
Not that I think either one of us have very grand illusions of things blowing up or anything, but yeah, those likes, those subscriptions,
Yeah.
all that stuff, it
And you
helps.
mentioned subscription. I forgot to say, I know Joe is happy for this. 1 million, if you guys go to my YouTube channel and you help me reach 1 million subscribers, Joe, Andy, and I, maybe some other guests, will do like a review for the one of Turkish finest cinema, The Adventures of Achela, which I know
Oh,
Joe had the
finest
chance to.
cinema, huh? Yeah, that looks like a steaming pile right there. But we will
Yeah.
suffer through it if you somehow manage to reach that goal.
Like I said, the quicker you make it to 1 million subscribers, the faster we'll get rid of it.
Yeah, the faster you won't have to hear about it ever again. Yeah.
All right.
But
I think
yeah,
that's it.
thanks for coming on, Yes. I know we've got some stuff coming down the pipe, but we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
But yes, this has been Murders with Mertens, a horror film
Mm.
podcast. Thank you for letting us tickle your ear holes.
Yeah.
Please like, share, and subscribe if you are so inclined. I will be back soon enough with another episode. But until next time, stay spoopy, everyone.